Okay. Now, I guess nobody found the non-restrictive relative clause, and I'm thinking that I should. Yes, I thought.
Well, we thought maybe it would be.
The next one. Sorry, let me just get my mind in the right place. I've been looking at number 7. I'm just really shocked to find this is number 7, number 6. Has anyone? No, I still say it. I still say it. I bet nobody's found the non-restrictive clause, but have a go if you think.
Non-restrictive.
Non-restrictive.
Is it? Is it the first one I said?
Any idea?
They involved a long bus journey.
Which
Is it followed? Which is the followed by the chocolate tasted.
was that?
I'm so impressed. I almost even didn't bother asking because I thought, well, I don't want to. Forget the restrictive, non-restrictive. We were both talking about restrictive instead of followed by. Absolutely, this is the bit we're thinking about. There's a hidden. I mean, it's not hidden actually, but you might not notice it. This one because of some omission that's happened here. Let me just see if I can put this on the board. A bus journey. What words go in the gap? So, a bus journey, blankety blank, followed by. What words go in the gap? In the gaps. If you had to put 2 words in there, what would those 2 words be? There we go. And then you've got you can see it's a relative clause, right? You've got that there. But we can take this out. We didn't talk about the fact we can take it out because we had enough rules with relative clauses. But it's a bit more elegant, I think, the sentence when you take it out, and your brain might do it automatically because of its elegance. But the day involved a long bus journey that was followed by a lot of. Good. How did you identify this as relative clause?
Just figured that it must be that. It was information that you could take out of the sentence. You could take out and you could still understand what the sentence was about.
Yeah. Now, actually, here we should be a bit careful, and I don't want to take away from the fact that you got this, you spotted this. But actually, if we were going to talk about this, I made the same mistake as you when I was looking at it. In this, this is actually a restrictive relative clause because it's telling us which bus journey. You can take it out. The day involved a long bus journey. Boom. What am I talking about? I don't know if I'm just talking nonsense now. What do you reckon? Is it restrictive or non-restrictive? The day involved a long bus journey, comma, which was followed by a lot of chocolate tasting. That's not restrictive.
You could just have the day involved long bus journey. Isn't that
No, that means it's non-restrictive. Natalie, forgive me.
So it's non-restrictive.
I reckon we have it as non-restrictive.
Yeah, that's what
No, I feel that. So my slide, I mean, I'm thinking about maybe too many things. I'm thinking about the comma not being there and then so on and so forth, but maybe that's too much, it's unnecessary detail I'm going into. It's a relative clause. I think you're right to call it non-restrictive. So I'll think about that. But I'll leave the slide like this for the recording, because it's what we're talking about. It won't make sense if I change it. And if you do listen to it and watch this, you'll wonder, what the hell's going on there? Should we really be listening to this strange man at the front or not? The conjunction. Well, we've got a conjunction. What's the conjunction here? You've got and. Good. And you can see that that's changing the shape of the sentence. Instead of using that clause that we just talked about, you've got down there. Adverbial. Where's that? Where is the lot? I heard you.
Confused.
Ah, that is, yeah, that's an adverbial. I was thinking about a bag of. Now you can see it's just changed from a huge bag of honeycomb to take home. What am I going to do with it? I'm going to take it home. That's one adverbial form. But this one, we all went home. Well, that should be underlined as well, with a bag of honeycomb. But it's a difference. And what I skipped over because of the conversation about the other relative clauses, this one you can see which some of us actually enjoyed as being stuck in as a definitely non-restrictive relative clause. I think we should have brought alcohol. Number, I'll edit that out. Number 7. Is it 7? Yes.
We're still looking at the subject.
Good luck, that is. shrug of the shoulders or something. Okay.
We're trying.
Well, you're doing extremely well, everyone. This is such a hard activity. I'm very impressed, actually, with how much we're getting through. A lot of sentences. And in this one, we have an example of something we had before. Do you remember what it is? What do you have? Do you know what you have in this, Natalie, in this one? You have one of those things. You've got a dangling modifier. Yes, yeah. What's a dangling modifier?
It's like when you walk.
No, it doesn't. It's not a bad thing to have a dangling modifier. It's not a bad thing. It's just that while you're reading the phrase, you're not quite sure what is being discussed. Could you read out, Virginia, the dangling modifier?
Is it being a fan of David Attenborough?
Yeah. Now, if you read that all and say, being a fan of David Attenborough, you don't have anything yet for that to attach onto. It's dangling in that sense. So that's not a bad thing on its own. That's fine. It's just if you attach it to something that's confusing, potentially. In any case, has anyone got something for participle? Grace, have you? Have you? Grace made a face saying that suggested she wasn't entirely sure.
So much questions I had wanted, and then in the bottom sentence it just says I wanted. But what?
There's a slightly different. There's a slightly different change on that one. The participle. Has anyone else got a participle?
I have this in the word.
I'm worried that I'm asking a question which is too vague to be answerable. All I wanted from this was actually what change I've made here is, look, I put the full stop in instead of that dash there, and that first word is the participle being. It's very often called, would you call it a gerund in this case? No, you wouldn't. No, forget it. Shush, be quiet. One thing about this hyphen, if you look at it, this is worth pointing out as being a mistake, which is common because it's a pain on a keyboard doing anything else. Actually, what you've done is you've typed in a hyphen on the keyboard and done a space. If you had put a space before the hyphen and a space after the hyphen, and you're using a PC, it probably will automatically make it long. Otherwise, you have to fiddle around and get the right thing. But what we want is a space on either side of that, and we want a dash, not a hyphen. A hyphen just connects words and makes two words into one, like so-called, so-called. So that's something worth being careful about. Okay, the conjunction. Notice I've got a comma there. I don't think it's mentioned in there. How do you feel about the comma? The comma? Good comma? It does have a kind of an introducing function. You're right with the dangling participle. Where's the conjunction then? What do you reckon? What conjunction am I talking about, do you think? As. I think that must be it. So again, instead of having a conjunction, I've put a new sentence in. Do you prefer it? Do you prefer it with a conjunction? Any preference? Indifferent? What's your... Again, this is...
What do you think?
Sorry?
What do you think?
Do you know what? I'm asking you, I haven't asked myself yet. Look. I don't care. But actually, when I'm writing, I usually try to make my sentences as short as possible. I don't know why. It's because it can be more readable. But I mean, there's no problem with that in this case.
Can a sentence be too short like you said, you like to make them as short as possible?
Can it be too short? Can a sentence be too... I don't think so.
No.
So, was that being used as a conjunction then when there's that dash or that hyphen?
No, it's just that the punctuation there. I think if we go back to it, I think Natalie, can you say why you put a dash in there? Do you remember those
I
five?
wanted to add on.
I do.
Well, let's before the end, remember those 5 functions we had, and we had separating and omitting, introducing. What do you think this is? If I ask you to stick to those 5 functions, what have you got? I think it's introduced. Yeah? Something I was so upset to find out on the day he couldn't attend due to his filming commitments. Did adding introducing? Why? I think it's like, why was I so upset?
Yeah,
This is
Oh,
why.
yeah,
Something like that. Maybe introducing a reason or something. I think that's the idea. So maybe a colon you might have, I suppose. But those are quite unusual ways of using the punctuation. I think. I prefer full stop.
Sorry, can you say your point again about the space either side, just so...
Well, just for the dash, if you look at this, and this is such a common misuse of punctuation because it's fiddly on a keyboard that it's worth noticing. What happens is when people are typing and they want to use a dash, this is what's happened here.
When would you use the dash, though, just a minute?
Well, the dash could be... Well, you could use a dash here, perhaps. You could. I mean, as an introducing thing. You could. That's all right. That's not a mistake. A dash to separate things, like if you're separating a relative clause, the surprise, the win. What was that sentence? The win, which was a surprise for our team, was da-da-da-da. And that which was a surprise for our team could be separated with dashes. But to make the dash... what you have to do, I think, I don't use a PC, but I think it happens automatically on a PC, on Word on the PC. If you get to the end of the word, so you get to the end of commitments, you press a space bar, you press the hyphen, you press a space bar again, and when you start writing the next word, it automatically autocorrects. It goes and it becomes long. That's what happens. Sometimes you have to press more than one key to get the dash in. But this is not a dash. So that is a punctuation.
What is that?
That's a hyphen. So a hyphen would be in words like I can't think of ad hoc. Would you use? I'm not sure if you have a hyphen in ad hoc. Do you? I do. You might if you. I don't know if you would had hoc. If you don't know what, you could have it in there to make it an adjective. Sometimes you use a hyphen like that. But in any case, the hyphen is used to join words, usually to make one word from two, something like that.
And
Like
you've used that dash to separate.
and a dash is a punctuation mark that's used often like a colon or a comma or a colon or a parenthesis, something like that. And that is a common issue. Okay, the last bits on this were, we've got the conjunction there, and then subject. Do you know what I'm going to do? Do you mind if I read through the rest of it? Because of time. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'll do this. So what I've got is a change of subject, if you see. Instead of I had so much question, I've changed it to their subject were. Why? No reason, just let's change it for the sake of it. The next one, however, is, I'm going to have to say, a mistake. Because you've got questions, which is plural, and that means you need many, which is for the plurals, whereas much is for uncountables. So you have so much water. There was so much water on the floor I couldn't cross the street, that kind of thing. I don't know what that means, that sentence, because water is uncountable. You don't have one water, two waters, three waters, but just some water.
So much and many was wrong.
Many is for plurals, countable plurals, your plurals, more than one question, two questions, three questions, there's so many questions, and much for uncountable. So if it was so much trouble, so much confusion, so much water, those are uncountable things. Okay, the remaining ones are... What's the participle? And then the participle, I'm just giving the name to that word there, being, which makes up the dangling thingamajigums. Yeah. Okay, so the 8 to 12, I'll just talk through them briefly, and if you've got any questions, we can talk about it in the review session next week. Here we go. So complement, subject, object. Complement, number 8. I've changed the complement here. And is this your sentence, Virginia?
It is, yes.
I was a little bit confused by the first clause. Tell me if anyone else sees why I was confused. Maybe I'm just being a bit slow here. One of my happiest times at school was just after morning registration. When did morning registration finish?
Just after 9 o'clock.
Just after 9 o'clock. And before evening registration?
3:30.
So you've got a whole period right there. It's not like it's an event.
No, it was a whole day, taking the day off school.
So that was it. You're bunking off.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that's what you meant or not. You're bunking off.
Yes.
So.
Possibly very confused way of putting it then.
No, I don't think so. I think the thing that confused me was the word times, because I was reading it a bit like this, something like, I liked those times when we did, do you remember those times when we would go to the park and da. But you're talking about a single time, I think, are you? Well, no, because you would do this quite regularly. Okay, right. In case, I've changed the period and changed it around a little bit. This, however, what's going on here? What can you tell me what the subject? Yeah, this is.
No, as soon as I read it, I was.
As soon as you read it, do you remember this? What we've got is my friends and me, my friends and I. Why? What is it? Why? Can you explain the mistake?
Subject pronoun, possessive pronoun.
Yeah. So subject, not possessive, just subject, object. So you've got this is the subject of the sentence. My friends and I would go into the city. So would go is the verb, and then you've got my friends and I as the subject.
It's me though. Is that a possessive pronoun?
Me is the object. So for example, he gave it to me, and me is the object. He is the subject. Oh, okay. The next one, adverbial, subject, object, relative. Also number 9, we have adverbial. Notice I have a comma after the adverbial, and you could change the position of that. My friends and I invented a dance one year for... that's okay, you can put 1 year somewhere else. I've put it right at the beginning of the sentence, and I've put a comma after it. I don't know, I think it's nice to have a comma there. I don't know if you think so. And we have this, Elaine, we have the same subject and object. The verb, made up a dance, my friends and I made up a dance, not me made up a dance. You've got the same thing. It's such a common thing when we're speaking that it often creeps into writing as well, but it's a bit more noticeable in writing, and if we were writing formally we would want to avoid it. And I have decided to stick this as a relative clause rather than a conjunction. Instead of and we made it through the finals, I've changed to which got us through to the finals, so I've got a non-restrictive relative clause at the end. This is all about preference, not about...
You say my friend and me. No.
Well, I mean,
It's me and my friend.
we do say that, and the rule that we talked about one week was about subject and object pronouns. So if we change the sentence to, if I take out my friends and say, me made up the dance, obviously we're not going to accept that. Sounds very, very strange to us. But actually in everyday speech we do say, me and my friends and me made up the dance. So that's, I mean, it's so common, it's a bit fussy to call it a mistake in everyday language. But when we're writing, it can be a bit problematic if it's a more formal text. You know, if you're texting a friend or writing an email to a friend, who cares? But if it's an academic text or CV or something like this, it would be good to notice. Just two more. This is a long one, but it's not a long discussion for it. What we've got, if we see this, I'll just read this out. It's a complicated, a lot of information. This sentence is complicated. Not everything about my experience at school was entirely rubbish. No, there were some good times. Full stop. Good times. In the kind of way that soldiers in the First World War are able to put that. Now that goes on, and actually then there is quite a lot of information following that. Not necessarily problematic, but I think if you put a semicolon there, and I think because you felt a lot of information had come to an end, and then there's a slight inconsistency, there's a comma, and you don't really want a semicolon. I think the issue is there's a lot of information put together. So when I read this, and it also because it's got this nice punchy style to it, it's engaging the reader. To have shorter sentences keeps that punchiness. So instead of this, I've got this take care of the comparison in this sentence, and I've got the conjunction here, just as. So note there were some good times, just as there were for soldiers in the First World War. And then there's a full stop, and you think, hang on a second, how could there have been good times for soldiers in the First World War? So it sets up the expectation for the next sentence. And then you've got a very easy sentence in terms of punctuation. I've got an adverbial there, every so often, and then just a nice list, an easy list. Soldiers were able to put down their weapons for say a whole hour, make their officers a cup of tea, then go back to... And all of the information is parcelled and it's got its separate place in the sentence. So the point of these changes was just to avoid that in that kind of way that puts a lot of information in one sentence, which goes against the overall style of the text, apart from anything else, because it's got this engaging, punchy effect, using note and other things like this. Okay, the last one we have. Number 11, my best experience in school was PE lessons. I'll just say I changed the punctuation on PE for this reason. Tell me what you think. You might have noticed this, you might have thought about this. I wanted to have a full stop after the second PE, and if I had full stops after P and after E, if I had this to show that, it would have got a bit weird there, because I would have had it looks like two full stops. So this is a good enough reason for me to just have that as P-E without the... So, what is there? There's a complement. I've got, instead of was PE lessons, my best experience was PE lessons, but my happiest memories of school of PE lessons are memories of PE lessons. So I've missed out the word memories there because your brain will fill in the gap. So I've changed the complement. And however is a comment clause, or sometimes called a sentence adverbial. And the punctuation here for this would be, I am sure everyone hated PE, full stop. However, comma, I loved it. That's how we usually punctuate with however. And an alternative is to have a semicolon after PE. I'm sure everyone hated PE, semicolon. However, still comma, I loved it. We want a comma after the however. I've changed that though. I've changed it to but I loved it. And I've put a full stop before but because I wanted to join it up with that whole sentence. But I loved it, comma, because possibly I was good at it. And you've got just an issue about joining the sentences. What is most comfortable in terms of joining up? And on that, I'll just repeat that point. That in some cases, in one or two cases, there were things that I think needed to be changed. They needed to be corrected, a punctuation issue or something. Some point like the subject-object pronoun, you could say you should really change that if it's a particular kind of text. But in most of the changes I've made to these, I made them for the sake of changing them so that we could talk about them and apply some of these terms. And then think about which way we prefer doing it in those cases.